this Copic video has to do with a particular shade of hair color that I got a request for in the comments about doing a hair color that's like a dark brown, almost black, and how you would do the shading and highlights for that. So I went online and looked for some references and came across a picture of Megan Fox, and while I can't say I'm the biggest fan of Megan Fox, she has some gorgeous hair. Yeah, I'll never have that color hair. But anyway, and I used that as a reference to come up with my color grouping for this. So starting with this image of Kissy May, I, after some experimentation, came up with this as a result. I used about, let's see, 8 different colors to get this one. You might be able to do it in less, but at least looking at my reference photo, to get the color of the highlights and how dark it is, that's ended up being what I went with. So for this particular hair color, you're going to want to be really sure of where you want your highlights, and you're going to want to stick to them, because with all the dark you have going on, leaving those highlights is going to be crucial. And you can see the reference picture that I went off of on my blog. So to get started, I'm using a warm gray, which might be counterintuitive, but once you look at the reference photo, you can see that the highlights are not really quite white because the hair is so close to black. It's almost a really light gray. So I went with more of a warm color, and I'm starting off with W1. The colors I'm using today are W1, W3, W5, W7, and then E74, E79, E77, and E49. Like I said, you might be able to do this in less, but this is how I got the look that I showed you earlier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this in, and definitely leaving whites for where my highlights are. The grays will also help the dark portion stay very dark, which is one of the key things for this hair color. So you can see where I'm leaving white here, here, up here, down in here. Right now I'm just going to worry about the top, not this under portion. Okay. You'll see that we're going to be doing a lot of laying in layers, but then also a lot of blending. So W3. W5. And you'll think to yourself now that this looks really gray, but as I'm sure you know with Copics, once you start layering the different colors together, especially when we get into the browns, she won't look like such an old lady. So sorry if I sound a little raspy today too. That is unavoidable. So W7. Alright, next I'm going to go in with E74, which is my first brown. You can see right away that the gray is taking on that brown tinge. And you'll also notice I'm definitely leaving those white highlights white. Because like I said, getting this hair color with some nice highlights is definitely about being sure of where you're placing them. E77. Really getting in those dark parts, the darker we go. E79. And then E49, which is the darkest brown I have in my Copic collection. Okay. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to go back with W1 and kind of blend up some of that brown in. It's really kind of fast. Don't get too much into your white, leave a little bit in the lightest sections. This is just the same thing you do in a regular color to kind of blend them all together. Alright. Well, it's still a little wet. Go with E74. And hit it a little bit too, so make it look less gray, more brown. And then just to give it more depth, you can see it's nice and blended. You can have good highlights, but to make the highlights stand out even more and the dark stand out more, go back and hit it with your other dark colors. Adding the little swoops in it with the darkest colors will really make your highlights pop. And I'm just following the lines here that are already in the image. Go over your dark areas again, just to darken them up. lastly, back to my E49. You can really see how dark her hair is. I noticed doing this color that it doesn't have a lot of graduation like you might see in like the blondes and the lighter browns. It's really, going from your darkest to your lightest is a really close group. So to do the underside, I'm just going to go in with my W7. Hit just about everything, since this is the darkest portion of her hair. And then E77 over the top. And you can really see there how the dark gray really darkens that up. E79, start adding your texture. And then E49. So, like I said, this grouping is more about getting those really white, stark highlights. They might be really small, but they stand out. And then getting your darks nice and dark. And that's what the grays helped with. Because without the gray behind it, like see the E77, it's still a nice brown. But when you use the W5 over the top of it, it makes it that much darker. So there you go. And check out my blog so you can see the comparison between the photo reference and what I ended up with. So see you next time.